we back with another reflection on the Daily Vedantic. Today's reflection is on a question I got recently in one of our weekly hangouts here in Venice, where we go through the texts each Friday morning. If you'd like to join, by the way, you can shoot me a note on Instagram and I'll make sure you have all the details. The question that I got is, what happens if you start to study this philosophy and you start to notice separation between you and friends or family? And it's a natural question. If someone recognizes that they have a problem with alcohol, for example, they drink less, they might see less of the friends that love to booze. If someone goes to AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, and abstains from drinking, then they might spend a lot less time at the bar. That could be the best thing for them, and you just gave them the courage to do so. In the beginning, it can feel like friction. A lot of it is in our own minds. It doesn't actually exist. I still have all of the same friends that I had when I used to party pretty late into the night. Now I'm in bed at like 8:30, and it is the greatest thing ever. I will also add, it is the greatest thing ever. I love my morning time, and yet it feels like it was yesterday that I was up until 3 and sleeping in until 10, 11 a.m. Even in running my company in my 20s, I would stay up until 3, knocking out emails, knocking out work, and get to the office around 10. And I thought, I'm just a night owl. That's who I am. How idiotic I was. Your friend group, or the times that you hang out with them, might shift, might change a little bit. I will say, if you need to be drinking to be with one of your friends, they aren't your friend. But let's say you're worried about your friend group or your family dynamics shifting, or there being judgment around going deep into a philosophy that they don't understand or have never heard of before. Well, I'll say one, the dynamics will shift naturally. Nothing will feel unnatural. You will just make the conscious choice, you know what? I'm going to leave the dinner at 8:30, at 9. If you start to prioritize great sleep, I mean that more metaphorically than literally. But as you start to shift your priorities, although I will say I do that literally, and not only do I love it, but my friends actually secretly like it too, because then they end up getting better sleep. They end up shutting it down at 9:30 instead of 11:30. But that literal case aside, metaphorically, when you start adhering to these higher ideals internally, as it is said in the philosophy, it renders all your actions attractive. In other words, everything you start doing just has a little more finesse to it, a little more success to it, a little more harmony to it. And your friends or your family that at first might have thought, that thing that so-and-so keeps talking about, never heard of that before. Within a year or two, they're asking, what book should I read on that? I've seen that over and over and over again. Not because you're doing anything miraculous, but just because they see your life, the world, start to orient itself around you. Instead of us trying to disfigure ourselves to orient to the world. You shift to higher ideals, and the world itself starts to orient around you. The right friends come into your life. Maybe the wrong friends exit, or those friends start to take a page out of your book. But I'll also add that it doesn't help anyone to make it seem like, well, everything is going to be like it was before, because it won't. A tree might grow strong naturally, but it will look different. It will be different than it was before. Being yourself, being your true self, is the ultimate rebellion. One of our prior episodes in the Daily Vedantic, that to be true to yourself is the ultimate rebellion. The world does not want you to be true to yourself. A lot of people around you won't want you to be true to yourself. But it is the most natural thing for you to be. Leaning into that, to how you are wired, how we are wired. And this philosophy is just a manual for living. Lean into the manual for living and you just start to see all of these things go well around you. But on the other side of the ultimate rebellion, two things happen. The people that genuinely want the best for you, they rally around you like you wouldn't believe. Those good friends become best friends. Those family members become extremely powerful community for your own development. And they've been waiting for you to do this. Maybe your whole life. And maybe they never even articulated it in their own minds. But when they see it happening, you'll see that dynamic with them shift. That dynamic become a beautiful bond between you and them. You will also see that it might invalidate some people around you's experiences and viewpoints. My dad, I remember one of my trips to India, I was leaving our three daughters and I was going over only for about a week. And he said, I just don't think you should be leaving your kids for a week to go to that ashram. And I thought about it and I asked myself, why is he so concerned about that? Maybe I shouldn't be leaving my kids for a week. But then I remembered I've got three older brothers, and my oldest brother, he travels about 15 days a month and has for 20 years for work. And my dad has never said anything to him about that. My older brother also has three little kids. I realized that if I was having to go to New York for some business meeting and I asked my dad to come along, he'd be on the next flight out. 2 weeks in New York for some business thing, well, that makes total sense. But 7 days at an ashram in India, that was something that not only didn't make sense to him, but he took it as an invalidation of his own belief system. So you can expect that will happen. That people will feel like your views might invalidate theirs. Kind of like the friend that says, you know what, I'm going to dial back my drinking. To the other friend that loves to booze, that is not what they want to hear. But when you are truly yourself, you realize that being truly you is your gospel to the world. On the other side of that invalidation or that friction, that willingness to be misunderstood, you give permission for everyone around you to be their true self. And not all at once, but one by one, they start to take that permission. And it's not just this upward spiral within your own development in life. It starts to happen to those around you. At the end of the day, this philosophy is really clear, and it's one of our episodes a few weeks ago. The most important work we do for those around us is the work we do on ourselves. And when we lift ourselves up, you lift up the entire world around you without even trying. It's that old phrase, you got to see it to be it. To take that metaphor further, when that one friend says, you know what, I'm going to dial back my drinking, you become the example for others to be that as well. Whether it is running companies, being a great friend, or being a great spouse. From the outside looking in, it's still essentially the same life that I had 10 years ago before this philosophy. Only now it's with a whole lot more success and a lot more harmony every single day and a whole lot less stress. Those are just the material benefits of this philosophy. But what is so much more special than that is the work that we do on ourselves ends up being the most impactful thing we can do for those around us. I can't even believe it works so simply like that. But that's what we're told, and that has been my experience. So to get at the heart of the question of what happens within your relationships with those around you when you start to pay attention to a philosophy like this, even go deep within a philosophy like this, well, what happens is you have a clear understanding of the best way you can positively impact all of those people around you. That is today's reflection on the Daily Vedantic. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to the Daily Vedantic. This reflection is part of a free repeating 2-year course in Advaita Vedanta. Rooted in the timeless wisdom of the Upanishads, arguably the oldest philosophical texts on earth, you can begin with episode 1, which gives the 15-minute overview of the whole philosophy of Vedanta, or you can join the journey with any episode at any point. But the critical aspect of this course, of understanding and mastering anything, is to study and reflect, even for 10 to 15 minutes on the timeless each day, preferably at the start of your day. As is said in this philosophy, reflection is 100,000 times as powerful as listening. So listen, journal, sit with, discuss these concepts, or ask questions at thedailyvedantic.com with our AI-powered chatbot, informed by about 700 episodes here, as regularly as one can, if you want to see clarity and peace almost effortlessly unfold in your daily life. And if it doesn't result in a near immediate increase in clarity and peace, then toss aside and feel free to never listen again. One of the things that you might notice is after 7 or 8 days in a row, this doesn't feel like a discipline. This feels like a visit with a best friend to dive into the timeless with daily reflection. Within a few days, it becomes one of your favorite parts of the day. You can also find out more, including news about in-person events in Los Angeles and beyond, at the Daily Vedantic on Instagram, or through our weekly newsletter at thedailyvedantic.com. Additionally, check out the links in our show notes for more resources like the books that are mentioned most frequently in the episodes, including Vedanta Treatise, perhaps the simplest and most straightforward read on this philosophy I've ever come across. Until next time, and from the entire team that works on the Daily Vedantic project, thanks for listening.